Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to another episode of Drumfills Kafé. Welcome to an episode of this 12th season. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. As usual, I will invite you to go check out the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok pages of Drumfills Kafé, to do a like, a subscription, and even share those pages if you want to. Would really appreciate it. Also, to go check out the website, drumfillskafe.com, to check out all the past seasons, all the content, all the editorials. There's lots of stuff to learn and to know about at drumfillskafe.com. Go check it out. So for tonight, he's coming back after several years of being on our show. My guest tonight is a native of Chicago who gained worldwide recognition as a member of the Metheny group from 1983 to 2001. Since then, he's been busy performing and recording with many artists such as Mintzer, Herbie, Mann, Brecker, David Bowie, Charlie Haden, and so many more. In the course of his career, he has performed in all of 50 states and more than 60 countries. That is a lot. He's basically coming back to share his latest projects, including his newest musical release, Tuxedo Man with David Brecker, his collaboration with the Canadian Dream cymbals on the Bliss Wertico ride cymbals. Really excited to talk about that, and so much more. Please welcome the prolific and always tasteful Mr. Paul Wertico.
Thank you, Dennis. Great to see you.
Great to see you, sir.
Great to be back, too.
You're welcome. I think you're maybe the first or second guest we have back since we started all this thing. So I'm excited to talk about new subjects with you, basically.
Me too.
So you look very relaxed. He looks like is this your sort of den study area, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we just got done. I just got done teaching at school where I teach at Roosevelt University. I just did a Zoom class, and then my wife and I were just cleaning up the garden right before this, so trying to enjoy doing what I love to do at school and hopefully inspiring students, but then also just enjoying life, and just, it's a beautiful day here, in Chicagoland.
Very nice. Very nice. It is a beautiful day too here in Montreal. So I guess we're pretty much sharing the same weather for once. So there's lots to talk about. You're a very prolific man, very busy man, but also I think you're enjoying yourself. Not to tell your age, but you're of a certain age and you don't seem to be wanting to retire. You're still very active. I think that's very respectful. I think that's really cool.
Thanks. I guess I'm hard to kill, I always say. Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, I'm 72, and I'm not embarrassed to tell people my age because, I get up in the morning, I do hundreds of push-ups and crunches,
Really? Wow.
I still have a six-pack, not a drinking beer six-pack. But no, I really stay in good shape, and my wife does too. And, even at this age, I can outrun my students. I mean, a lot of times if I'm at Roosevelt and I want to catch the train back, it's about 2 or 3 blocks away, and then I've got to run up to the platform, and I'll have like a backpack of 20 pounds, and I can just sprint. And I've had students that just couldn't keep up with me, it's just, so I'm, like I said, I'm hard to kill. And being a drummer, it really makes life easier when you're in good shape. You don't get winded, you still have all your flexibility to be able to express yourself with the sound you want. Because a lot of stuff that we play, is really it's a very physical instrument, as you well know. And so to take care of yourself, to eat right, do all those things that, when you were a young kid, that you probably didn't want to do. But as you get older, you start going, I did enough of that now. I can actually now, I'm just going to do things that make me feel better in the long run, as opposed to just make me feel better and then, have a terrible hamburger or something with fries. And then it tastes great, but then later on, you go, I wish I would have done that,
Being part of a percussion group for 25 years, I know exactly what you're talking about. Let's just say that it's a very physical show, and there's not a lot of nights of drinking. Let's just say, very rare, I should say. People ask me, "Oh, you must have had fun for those 2 weeks." I'm like, Yeah, played some shows, met some great people, went to bed pretty early. That was pretty much it. So,
Well, one of the funniest things, I mean, we're talking, about Canada, like Bachman Turner Overdrive, right?
boom.
Because I was a big fan of the Guess Who. I still sometimes listen to them. I thought they were great. But I was reading about Bachman Turner Overdrive, where, they're talking about like all this partying stuff in their songs. But they went to bed at early on the road. I mean, their tour manager took care of them. So sometimes the illusion of what people are telling you to do in music isn't exactly what everyone is actually doing in real life.
Yeah.
And in some ways, to perform every night, I mean, I just got back from Italy about 2 weeks ago, where I did it's a new trio with a really good piano player that I'd never played with before. He wanted me to be like the featured artist. And so Riccardo Angrahini, and then Gianmarco Scalia was the bass player who's in my other bands. And we did, I think it was 7 nights of just one-nighters. And literally, I was getting like 2 or 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep a night. I mean,
Boom.
if I told you, like, okay, let me just tell you what we do, okay?
Sure, for
So
sure.
I usually try to get home on a Sunday because I'm going to teach on Monday. And on this particular tour, it just didn't work out. I'm going to get home on a Tuesday. So on Sunday, we played this concert in Andria, which is the very bottom of the boot, like the southernmost part of mainland Italy. And so here we're playing this festival, and I'm looking out and I'm seeing the total lunar eclipse over the,
So,
over the stage, which was amazing. We play this show, it's probably, 75 minutes or whatever. They film it and all this stuff. And then we go back to the hotel. So you get back to the hotel maybe midnight or 1, but we had like a 6 a.m. flight
oh,
to Pisa, but the airport was like maybe 2.5 hours away. So you get up at like 4 or whatever, do that. So then we fly to Pisa. Then we have to go to Valdarno, which is another couple hours of drive. Okay, so now it's Monday morning. We're dealing with this. Okay, so this is like my last day before I fly home the next day. So we get to the hotel. Maybe it's 3 p.m. by that time, and we're gonna do a thing at 5:30 where I have to there's drums supplied, but I have to tweak my drums up because at 6 p.m. I'm going to teach a Zoom class to one of my classes. So from 6 to 7 I teach a Zoom class. Then from 7 to 7:30 we do the sound check. Then from 7:30 to 8:30 I do another Zoom class with my AI class, okay? And then from 8:30, so that's 7:30, 8:30. Then from 8:30 to 9:30, we gobble down like amazing food, great steak and everything. Then play the show from 9:30 to maybe, I don't know, probably 11-ish or something.
mhm.
Then we have to, go back to the hotel. The next morning, I have to fly from Rome to Chicago. My flight's at 9:45. So we have to get up around 4:30 to drive like maybe a couple hours, 3.5 hours, 4 hours, because it's Rome on a Monday morning.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then I did
Traffic.
that. And then so I get home Tuesday at late afternoon. Wednesday I teach, and then Thursday I'm just kind of making up for lost time. Then Friday, I have to fly to Denver to play with Fareed Haq. And so I get there and I literally land, and I haven't played this music before. We get to this great venue, Dazzle, and I'm literally buzzing. I mean, my nervous system is going. So we do a sound check quickly, run down the tunes, then we did 2 shows that night. They were great, but then go to the hotel and then take an early flight back to Chicago. And so, and I mean, it was amazing because it's all good. So it's nothing to complain about. But if I wasn't in good shape, you would probably just crash and burn.
Mhm, mhm. I'm in my late 40s and I have issues getting up sometimes just to take the dog out. So that's impressive. I know those schedules. Those I've lived those, and
Yeah.
they are great. You do have that adrenaline buzz going.
Hmm.
Uh, I always find that but in your case, you're teaching, so you have another buzz, if you will. But I always find that the moment you stay still for a second, that's when it catches back with you. First, you go, whoa. But that's amazing, Paul. That's wow. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and it's, I'm proud to be able to do it, and I think it does keep you vital, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Because all this stuff that you're doing, keeps your brain active.
mm,
So like what you're saying, I mean, I remember, in the days with Pat Metheny's group, we do a long tour, like you do like 11 weeks, and you're off for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the next 8 weeks or whatever. And that's usually when you got sick, is
yep.
when you got home and your body just kind of goes, and then all of a sudden, you realize. So I guess I'm just running ahead of the train at this point, and it's just not stopping.
Well, that's amazing. But it's inspiring to hear you still do that. All after all these years, it's really really cool. Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Very nice. I want to go back just a little bit because some things that I found about you was, which I thought was really impressive, is the fact that you're self-taught. Basically, you haven't really taken lessons as a kid. You kind of like learn more to express yourself, if you will, if I think I got it correctly, which is amazing because everybody I've done a lot of interviews and most people, oh, I was 8 years old. I did this rudimental stuff on the snare and da da da, and moved on, and this teacher and that teacher. In your case, that wasn't the case. Tell us about a bit more how you started to be self-taught after all these years.
Sure. Well, no, thanks. That's a great question. I mean, so when I was entering the sixth grade, my mom and dad and we moved to a different city. We moved to Cary, Illinois. Okay. And so, I was always playing along with the radio with like, you know, just with pencils and things, right?
Okay,
And I
right,
always
right.
loved music. Music always made sense to me. Just
Hmm.
was addicted to music. So at one point, my mom, she was like, you know, why don't you take up an instrument? Just don't take up the drums.
Okay.
I'm serious. And that's what I wanted to do. So then the grade school band, so I'm 12 years old at this time.
Yeah.
So I entered the grade school band. And everyone else in the grade school band in the percussion section, had been playing since they were 8 and all that. And so I entered a grade school band, and my band director, his name was Vern Pade. He was a sax player. So he taught me how to hold the sticks. He wasn't a drummer. He taught me to hold the sticks. So I got a practice pad and all that, and taught me how to read music, right? And so by the end of the sixth grade, all of a sudden I'm the featured soloist. Okay, which is really interesting. And then the first time I sat at a drum set, well, let me get back. The first time I sat at drum set, I must have been 4 or 5 years old. I remember sitting as a wedding, as a little kid. I sat out and I tried to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the drum set
Okay.
instead of just banging on. That's okay. But then when I'm in sixth grade, the first time I really sat down at a friend's kit, I could already play it better than he could. I was already doing the left-handed roll kind of stuff. And he's going, how are you doing this? I said, I have no idea. And so I didn't have a drum set, but I had pillows. And so I would play the pillows and just, have different toms for different pillows and things. So that's how I taught myself finger control. So, the catch the bounce and all that, I was doing that. No one taught me any of this stuff. And then I got a snare drum. I got a Slingerland snare drum. And I remember when I wanted to play along with songs, if I wanted to go from a snare to a tom, I literally took a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger, and wrapped it around my knee and wrapped it around the snare mechanism so I could move it and turn and to do that. Is that wild? So then, as a graduation present going into eighth grade, my grandmother got me a drum set. And so I asked my mom, can I take drum set lessons? And she goes, no. She goes, just do what you're doing.
Mm.
So, I mean, everything has been completely just by instinct. And when I got that first drum set, it was a beautiful Ludwig kit, like the Black Oyster Pearl kit
Oh,
and all that
nice.
stuff. I had like a radio behind me that I would play along with the Stones or the Beatles or the Hollies or whatever.
Mm.
And when I played, I would play in time and out of time. So I would play like free, but catch the kicks
Mm.
you know so then when I got into high school, my band director, Donald Ahrensberger, who's still alive, and I dedicated my book to him. He auditioned me, and I didn't even want to go into the band. I was into like chemistry and cross country running and all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So he finally says, well, why don't you audition? So I go to audition, and I don't look at the material at all. Okay, and so out of 8 kids, I come in eight because I hadn't even looked at it. And the concert band had 5 chairs. But Donald Ahrensberger realized that I had something. He grew the concert band percussion section to 8 chairs.
Hmm.
So now I was in.
Hmm.
And so the head of the percussion section for one year was this guy, Randy Isles, who ended up being the president of the Percussive Art Society and everything. But he was like incredible. But he was like a by the book guy. I mean,
Uh,
played beautifully. So we didn't like each other back then. Later on, we became great friends. But the thing is, after he left, then I was the head of the percussion section. And
okay.
so, for one thing, that's one reason I teach the way I teach is because Donald Ahrensberger was able to take these two diverse perspectives of like, someone that's by the book and someone that's just a wild child
Wow.
and make both of us successful in our
Wow.
lives, which I thought was brilliant. Says so much about being able to keep an open mind about how do you take students and make each student unique in their own path, as opposed to just teach everybody to be the same
Same
thing and
thing.
all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and so that's how all this happened.
There's a couple of things that I want to pick up. So the fact that you, how do you say, did it naturally, I
Yeah,
guess, permitted you to be more you, if you will, permitted you to be more
absolutely.
expressive and not necessarily be a copycat of,
Hmm.
Moon or whoever else was popular at the time, basically. Would
Hmm.
that be a fair assessment?
Absolutely. And I bought tons of records. I bought jazz, rock, ethnic records. I bought everything. But when I'd listen, because Keith Moon, like you mentioned, I loved him. I loved Paul Whaley from Blue Cheer. But I also loved Baby Dodds. I mean, and Coltrane and Ornette. I mean, I loved everything, and so I just put it together in this big stew, which was me. And even I never really transcribed things. I have to transcribe stuff now as an educator, but back then I would listen to somebody like Roy Haynes was one of my big influences. And rather than try to figure out what he did and play it the same way, I listened to what happened with the music, like if Keith Moon did a crash or something, and then I try to do it my own way. So it was always about affecting the music as opposed to actually playing the
The
drums.
drums, right? Or you're
Yeah.
copying the rhythms or trying to, yeah,
Yeah.
understand the context or the choices the drummer would make with the context of the music, basically, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, because
Interesting.
we're
Yeah.
playing music. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing, because you can play the drums, and it's great to play the drums. It's great to play beats and grooves, and that's our job many times. But in general, our job is to really play music and make the music the best it can be, and make the other instrumentalists and the singers and everybody feel great. Like wow, I've never felt like this good. I mean, so it's like even teaching all the history courses and stuff I teach, about jazz and rock and all kind of music. The context, music comes from somewhere. Why has this music been invented? Why? What was the reason these people invented this stuff? And that gives you more context in what the music really is. Because otherwise, it's just a bunch of notes, it's a bunch of chords and rhythms and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know. So that there's the theory, which is the musical element, obviously, which is important to know. But again, the rules are made to be broken too.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
we can get into that forever too.
That
I mean,
sounds like
there's
an
so much stuff. And as we're talking right now, I just got some information from a bass player, Marlene Rosenberg. I'm on her new record. I just mastered it, so that's come. I mean, it's so crazy how busy this all is, and just do it. It just you believe in yourself, hopefully, and then you just kind of go for it. I think that's really what it's about because it's not just what you play, it's how you play it. Because you can play all the greatest stuff, but if you don't believe in what you're doing, it's going to come across as being unsure and weak. Whereas even if you're completely wrong, if your phrasing is strong enough, people can follow the end of where you're
mm,
going to come in, for
mm.
instance.
Well, I think if I sort of close this area, I think also the fact that you were more natural and more yourself,
Hmm.
you weren't comparing yourself to anybody else. You were just already trying to voice whatever it is that you had inside of yourself to express music, which I think is, and I'm guilty of this as well. Trying to compare myself to a peer to or whatever, or sort of thing, and then you fall into those. Well, yeah, well, that was him. You are you, and it's there's no point of comparing yourself because you have your own voice and whatnot. I think that could be also a fair assessment if I'm off for it.
Well, I mean, like Duke Ellington said, I mean, the greatest compliment to a musician is that to have a sound, you
Hmm.
know? And so it's really hard for, especially for people that are taught a certain way that
Uh,
you have to be this, or, if you're Tony Williams or you're Ginger Baker or whoever, um, to try to sound like them, it's okay. You're trying to understand and get that stuff through osmosis into yourself. But there's got to be that point where you just believe in yourself. And to me, like if someone says they like my playing, I'm thankful. If they say they don't like my playing, if I like my playing, I'm, it's like, okay, I'm sorry you don't like my playing, but I like it. Whereas
mm,
if someone says I like your playing, but I didn't like what I did, then it's like I'll still say thank you, but I'm the judge of who I'm going to be. And
there you go.
and so if you have enough track record then going that your path is being, because it's one thing if no one wants to play with you ever, and it sounds like crap on the recording and stuff, then you might want to reevaluate what
Yeah.
you're doing. But in general, if things are going your way and you're playing with people you want to play, you like the way you're sounding, you're always improving. But improving in what way? It's just basically keeping all the your options open so that you're always growing. And to me, improving is growing. It's not necessarily playing better, because sometimes you want to play sloppy.
Um,
Sometimes you want to just have like this, and so other people, I go, oh, that's sloppy. I mean, look at the Dilla grooves, for instance.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's an interesting groove. I got into that a year or two, and I didn't understand what was going on, and then
yeah, and it's funny.
once I understood the concept, I was like, that is so cool, and yet so hard. How do you do that?
Well, one thing, D'Angelo just died today. I don't know if you saw
Oh, I
that.
didn't see that yet.
Yeah, he just
Oh,
died. That's 51 from pancreatic cancer, which is
oh, I'm sorry to
horrible.
hear. Okay.
But when you listen to the Dilla grooves, Jay Dilla grooves, if that was a student playing that groove, number 6 on page 3, you go, man, you got to work on your coordination. You got to
Yeah,
work
yeah,
on
because
your
it's
timing.
not. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it would be like, no, you're dragging here and rushing there,
yeah,
but no, that's cool too. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So it's art. It's supposed to challenge people. It's supposed to enlighten people, and you're supposed to follow your own path, and always stay honest with yourself. I mean, you look, sometimes you go, yeah, I could have done better on that. Next time, hopefully I'll do better. But in general, even when that's happened, 20 years later, you listen to something you didn't like, and you go, damn, that was really good. But
Mm,
you were judging on where you wanted to be at that time,
that time.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I'm gonna have to move it along because I think we can continue for another 20 minutes.
Easily,
This.
whatever, man. I'm here.
Let's talk a bit about, of course, your time with Pat Metheny, because that is a good chunk of your time and, of course, your career. And of course, I think that's a lot of people know you from that. And I went into a dive of the stuff you guys did together, and it's like, oh, I know that one. Hang on, I know that one. I also know that one. Hang on. And it's weird that it's stuff that I sort of knew but never made the connections, if you will.
Hmm.
And just kind of just yeah, I just was watching some shows, and it's just the interaction and the improvisation, and but at the same time, I think there's, anyways, I'll let you talk about those years. But first off, like, how do you sort of sum up all those years for yourself, all that experience being with Pat Metheny for all those years?
Well, obviously, I consider myself very fortunate, because that was like the biggest jazz band in the world for a while now,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and um obviously having Grammys and all that stuff really has allowed me to perpetuate my career, because there's so many great musicians out there that sometimes they don't get the breaks,
Mhm.
and I know, like with Pat, for instance, like, if we did a record, we knew that when it came out, there's going to be thousands of people are going to hear it and buy it.
I
You know,
see.
that's why when we get to Tuxedo Man with David Becker, that's like one of my favorite records I've ever done. It's like perfect record, for me. But it's also on a small Polish label, so it makes it hard. And especially nowadays, where people, there's so many things to choose from and they don't necessarily buy product. We'll get to that.
Mm,
But with Pat, it was always, you're playing with great musicians. At Pat and Lyle were fantastic musicians and writers. Steve Rodby, great bass player. I mean, everybody was great.
mm,
It was a chance to see the world. I mean, musically, I'm proud of it because when I listen to the tracks, and I don't listen a lot to old stuff much, but when I listen to what I did, you can tell that I'm enhancing the music.
uh,
It's not about showing any licks off or playing anything fancy or anything like that. Because, even to get back to high school, when I was the head of jazz or head of the concert band, in our marching band, rather than play snare drum, I wrote cadences, but I chose to play cymbals and bass drum to enhance the melodies rather
mm,
than play the snare drum
I
stuff.
see. I see.
Because
Okay.
I was always kind of drawn towards melody and harmony as much as rhythm. So with Pat Metheny, I mean, the harmonies and melodies and everything are just stunning, right? And the arrangements. So that was great. I mean, in some ways, I do, and I always say this not in a negative way, but sort of in a sad way. I always consider myself like a Keith Moon drummer, like a lead drummer playing. And with Pat, we play a lot with sequencers and stuff.
Okay. Those
So
are yeah.
a lot of
Okay.
people think of me as the happy cymbal guy, like I don't have a snare drum hand or a bass drum foot or anything, where I do, but it was never mixed out that much. Plus, when you have a lot of other, tracks going on simultaneously, percussion tracks, synthesizer tracks, in 100% of space, everybody's got, their percentage of how to be heard. I got kind of buried. So like when I first joined the band, it was a lot looser, more jazz like. But then once the synclavier came in and all this stuff where Pat could write all these things, it got a lot more.
Dense.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I got it. I always say I was micro improvising by that time,
Okay.
rather than macro improvising.
I see.
Yeah. So you kind of get misunderstood because to me, Pat used to say you could have been a rock star. I mean, because I was into rock just as much as jazz. I mean, and seriously, but I liked improvisational music and jazz and whatever kind of music I played allowed me to improvise more than just playing rock, which would have been playing grooves, which I love to do. But at the same time, you couldn't express yourself as widely playing that kind of music.
Okay, it's interesting because I saw some of the stuff where it's more cymbal work. Sometimes you do have a backbeat to it. Sometimes more groove oriented. So, oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting
but
about
not I mean, if you listen to the tracks,
right.
like even like if you listen to Tuxedo Man and stuff, where there's a lot of stuff going on, and so I'm expressing myself pretty much 100% with
I
David
see.
Becker,
I see.
as
I see.
opposed to expressing myself maybe 35%,
I see what you mean.
if that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
I see
But
what you
it's
mean.
all good because every musical circumstance requires you to make the music successful. So you have to give of yourself. It's not all about me all the time. I mean, so that was one of the positive things about it. And Pat was great to work with. I mean, we flew first class, and the whole thing. It was a great experience. There was nothing bad to say about it at all. So I really consider myself blessed to been with those guys and played that music. But then when it was over, it was over. That allowed me to. Now I'm a tenured professor of music and stuff. You never know. As long as you're moving forward, I tell my students all the time, all those forks that come in the road, hopefully you'll take the ones that make good decisions for you to open up the next good ones that'll open up the next good ones.
Interesting. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that. But yes, I implore people to go check out those videos lives with Paul and the band. It's really cool stuff to watch. Some really good. I anyways, I think your improvising is really
Thanks.
interesting and really nice and really felt. So go check it out on YouTube and all that stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, you just talked about teaching. Let's talk about that. So yeah, you are teaching basically at oh, I have to go check my notes. I'm sorry. I had it by heart, but I forgot. At Chicago College Performing Arts,
At
Roosevelt
Rose,
University. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And you've been doing that for how long exactly now?
Well, this is my 23rd year there.
Congratulations. Wow.
Thanks.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I could have retired, I guess, but at the same time, I've got some really good students. I'm teaching really interesting classes all the time. And I only go down a couple days a week, which is like, I mean, it's great because, it's not only stability where I can be home with my wife to have dinner, because being on the road is fun, but after a while, you
Yes.
know, you,
I
you kind of
concur.
did there,
Yes. Yes.
it got to that point like, oh God, I'm in Paris again. Oh God, I'm going to take a nap,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it, you get to that point. So it's a bunch of balancing acts to do the academic thing and the performing thing. And right now, I think they're pretty balanced. I mean, a lot of times I do have to turn down some interesting gigs
yeah.
because I want to be there for my students. I mean, my students, the drummers, get all their lessons with me. I'm not putting in a TA to teach it because I know some well-known musicians sometimes are there only in name so the universities can say, oh, come here and study with this guy, and they get like one lesson a semester. No,
Yeah.
I'm actually there all the time for them.
Very
And
nice.
like I
Very
said,
nice.
well, that's why I said earlier that I taught Zoom classes. Now, how many people would do a Zoom class when you're on the road between, setting up sound check and the gig?
That is
You know?
dedication. That is dedication.
Yeah. And I'm kind of proud of, I mean, I must be a masochist at heart in some ways, At least I'm not a sadist. So, but no, so it makes it really fun. And I think the students really appreciate it because you're trying to give a work ethic to them too to
Yes.
succeed,
Yes.
because even if you're really talented, if you don't do the work, there's other people out there that might even have less talent that are going to get the gig because whoever's the band leader or musical director or whatever is going to go, this guy's great, but I don't know if I can trust him to show up for the
Yeah.
gigs and
No,
all
for
that.
sure.
So
Yeah,
there's
for
so
sure.
much more to uh, a musical career than just music.
100%. 100%. And let's talk about the students. How has it changed a lot since you started? Is it the same sort of information? Do you have to like stay updated with what's going on in the world, like in terms of music? How's it changed since you started to today, basically?
Well, that's a really great question. I mean, so I teach, drums. I teach ensembles, different combos and stuff, but I do have classes. So some of the classes that were there 23 years ago, I'm still teaching like jazz history classes.
Mhm,
Those are
mhm.
there. Um, some other classes might have morphed into something else. Like I taught music business classes, but now my load, I don't have time to do that. But since COVID, which I have to say, COVID was great because I
Okay.
taught Zoom and
Mm,
that opened up Zoom classes. So all of a sudden I have some asynchronous classes as well as synchronous classes. And I come up with like new inventions. Like one I'm teaching this semester, it's rock music, its role in society. That's an asynchronous class. Last semester, black music, the power of Black American music. But I've come up with classes like the social justice through sound.
interesting.
Yeah, which is all about protest music, right?
Interesting. Right, right,
And
right, right.
and then this semester, which they asked me to teach an AI class, and I was like, well, I use AI, but I'm not an expert. Well, I guess I am because I mean, and it causes me to learn more about it
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm blowing these kids' minds in a good way. Because rather than talk about doom and gloom, which you can talk, I'll talk about, using stems by using Moises.ai. I'll show them all these things that they can utilize in real time, like BandLab if you want to master your stuff.
Uh-huh.
These things are available. So you can use AI to be in positive ways. And in fact, like Monday, I had him write lyrics, you know, through AI.
Okay.
And it blew their minds because all of a sudden, it made music too, like hip hop tracks and jazz tracks and R&B and country western. But then the lyrics, some of them were dumb, because they could put in any subject, but there's always one or two lines that you go, wow, this is kind of, you could just take that line and run with this, and write your own stuff. Because if something's written 100% AI, it can't be copyrighted, you know. So but that doesn't mean that you can't take something that it wrote and then write your own stuff based on that idea or that sentence or that that emotion. And the AI stuff, kids were always like at first like, oh, you can't write you can't make a love song with AI. Well, you look at this and it does understand like the every love song that's ever been written. It's got
Well,
access to. So
yeah.
it'll take lines, or it'll take a part of a line, or it'll take the idea of what the line's trying to say, and it'll come up with its own its own way of phrasing it. And it was like really almost scary, how good it is. So, but rather than scare them and say, oh, just hide under the covers, it's there. So you have to deal with it. Otherwise, it'll just run you over. So how do you utilize it for yourself in your career? Because careers are always changing. I mean, look, Spotify and all this crap that has been, kind of changed the industry. But now vinyl is back, but now CDs are coming back again and cassettes are coming back. So it's really about being smart, riding the wave, keeping all your antennas, open for all the information that's around you, and then trying to utilize it the way you want the world to be.
I find it interesting that you're keeping up to date to that point. I think that's a really cool thing because I went to a school that was very good, but was kind of old school. It was they were
Mm.
teaching still the bebop stuff and the
Ah,
ensembles and stuff, and it's great. It's the basics, it's the foundations. But there's so
yeah.
much stuff that the fusion part happened, and then all the 80s, 90s, and all that other stuff happened, and they wouldn't want to teach that stuff because it wasn't part of the curriculum. So I find that what you're teaching is really cool. And to get back to I agree with you. I remember with because I went to Carleton University for a jazz program, and there was a prof there was talking about the history of the changes of technology, basically in
Mm.
music, and he's saying, this is just another shift. Basically, it's from from the vinyl to the CD to the CD to the streaming to the but back then he was talking, of course, to the streaming because that's where we were when I went.
Mhm.
So I think the AI is at the same thing, and I think AI basically is sort of it's a nice partner to throw the ball at, so that it throws back the ball and says, "Try this." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." Throw it back. It gives you this. I'll try this and try that. So I think it's a great sort of exchange of ideas partner because basically it'll just keep spitting out ideas that you may not have thought of, basically. And no, it's interesting what you're talking about there. It's very cool. Very
Well, a
nice.
couple things. I mean, for one thing, Roosevelt University was based on social justice.
Mm,
So in like 1940s, late 40s, I mean, it allowed Jews and blacks and other people that might not get into universities to get in. In fact, the Jazz Showcase, Joe Siegel, that started the Jazz Showcase, went to school at Roosevelt. And Charlie Parker and Miles Davis, they perform concerts there. So our school is very open-minded. And our program, when I was head of jazz for 5 years, I didn't want to do it anymore because I had too much going on. But I changed the program from jazz studies to jazz and contemporary music studies.
mm,
And then, so even the combos, for instance, when I got there, you had beginner combos to advanced combos. And I said, no. I said, because you have the blind teaching the blind at some point. So I said, let's make them genre specific. So, we have ECM combo, Brazilian combo, bebop combo. Right now, I'm teaching a swing combo and a modern jazz combo, an avant garde combo, you know. And so the kids, rather than just learn in one semester a bossa nova, a rock beat,
uh, uh,
whatever.
mm,
They're going to, for that one semester, they're going to study the genre to get deeper into it. And the teachers that are going to teach that are good at that, because not every teacher is good at everything. So you might have a teacher that's good at bebop, but maybe not good at avant-garde, or good at swing, but not good at Brazilian, because it's their specialty. So you find the teachers that really are good at that. And so the students learn that way. And to get back to your AI thing, about challenging stuff, I mean, it makes people challenge, what are we? Why are humans so self-important? You know what I mean? Because if they're going, well, this is, it can't show emotions and stuff. Animals show emotions, but we don't think of animals, unfortunately, the same way as we think that humans are the most important thing, even though we're destroying the planet half the time, you know? And then also our brains. I mean, you think of a brain as, you know, it can be a soul. I'm not going to get into religious or
Hmm.
spiritual stuff because that's a whole different thing. But if you think about what we are, we compile information. And that's what AI does, but it does it based on what we taught it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly, exactly. It's
And
it's
so
machine learning. So yeah,
yeah, so it
yeah,
makes you question who we are, you know, which is really interesting. Is the human species going to be around forever? I mean, it wasn't around forever. I mean, it might. I mean, I think about George Carlin, the great comedian,
hmm,
and
hmm.
in one of his bits, he said something about like all these people are all saying save the planet, save the planet, save the planet. Well, no, the planet's still going to be here, we're not going to be here. And then he said something, he said also, like, what happens if the only reason humans are here is because the planet wanted plastic?
Plastic. I know.
You
It's a great.
remember that?
Yes.
See, and that kind of stuff, those kind of things can really open up your brain to so many things about what we do and why we do it.
Yeah. Oh yes, I love Carlin. He's just
Uh,
I just love Carlin.
Unbelievable.
But yes, I know that bit for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, so much to talk about. Yeah, and having and this is not to boast or anything, whatever, but I did have do a master's of science information at the McGill, and we talked about all this stuff back
Mm.
in the day, and it was coming. It was like just precursors of machine learning. We weren't at AI yet, but it was precursors of it. And that was the thing, kind of like what you're saying. We had to always sort of stay on top of the newest technology to understand what information is good, what information is bad, and all that stuff. So it's I find it a very interesting time for AI. Honestly, it's like yeah, it's a very interesting time. We're off topic for drums, but it's a very interesting
No,
time.
no, see, that's the thing. It's not. I mean, what we're expressing through the drums is who we are and how
Yeah,
we think. It's the same thing about like why do some drummers choose to play something? Is it musicality or is it just also who they are? I mean, you think I remember the great drummer Jim Gordon who went to jail for life. Remember, murdered his mother, and but he
Jeff Porcaro talked about him. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
right. And I
yeah.
mean, I was always a big fan. And, just reading about him and listening to his parts, he had a different take on things. And so sometimes, personnel, I mean, or Keith Moon. I mean, why did Keith Moon play that way? I mean, he was very narcissistic in a lot. He was always look at me, you know what I mean? Where other people like Hal Blaine, for instance, the great studio drummer of the Wrecking Crew, he just wanted to make the songs successful and he didn't really care about the drums. It was just the sound. He was interested in the lyrics and trying to make, whatever track he was doing successful. So, it's the outlook of all this stuff. It's, that's the thing that gets me when people just talk about like, oh, we're just going to do this book now, we're going to do that and that. It's the same thing about like what I said earlier about like teaching jazz history and music history courses. Like, why did this stuff get invented? If you look at blues, I came up with Exploring the Blues, which was a live class. And, you look at, I don't know if you know this, this might be really interesting to you, but the Delta Blues Museum has a thing called the Uncensored History of the Blues. It's Mike Rugel. Okay. And you can find it. There's like 70 episodes. They haven't updated in the last few years, but it's all these things between the world wars. So World War I, pretty much
Oh,
into
so,
World War II. So all the classic kind of stuff. And each one was a subject. So like you had the cocaine blues, the lesbian blues, the furniture man blues. And it was all about these people, these folks, these artists, black artists, telling the story of their lives, like the
mm,
Furniture Man Blues. There were like maybe 5 songs about like these poor people that all of a sudden they couldn't pay for their furniture, and the furniture men would come and take it away,
okay.
or the Mississippi, flood of 1927, things like that. So the stories behind the notes are what give it the authenticity.
Authenticity to it.
And
Yeah.
then later on, like it gets appreciated but also appropriated
Uh,
by people that just want just play the licks of the blues. Okay, now
yeah,
I'm playing, Robert Johnson. Like,
Muddy
yeah,
Waters,
you
or yeah,
are, but are you
yeah,
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You're
It's like when I see 6 years old that can play Rush, and it's like it's amazing, great. Do you
yeah,
understand what the song's about?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then
it's not to put 6 years old down, because I find that amazing today that 6 year olds can do that. But it's just, there's a yeah, there's I understand what you're saying to say.
yeah, and that's what really gives context and I think like an underlying emotion that people, even if they don't know why, they feel something deeper from some players than other players,
Mhm,
you know.
mhm.
It's because those people are playing from this deep space of understanding and everything and feeling and experience, and other people are just kind of like, it's like putting on a
Copy.
mask and you can
Yeah.
look like whoever you want to look like, but you're not that person.
I think we'll stop there, because again, I think we can go on
Oh,
on
we
this
could go on
subject.
for, I'd love to talk, so
Same here, and I love
yeah.
to listen to these stories. But very interesting that you're keeping up to date for your students with all of that stuff, and showing them a positive way of the new technology, because that's what it is. It's a new technology, and I'll just end on this. There is a an AI that's doing, basically, it's not creating the melodies or lyrics for you, but you're singing a melody, and it's telling you what it's a minor or whatever, and it's telling you the chords for it, so you can create your own, basically, music. So in other
Well,
words, it's helping you to, whatever melody you have in your head, you can just sing it, and it will sort of create it for you. And I can't remember the name for it, unfortunately, but I think
send
that's
it to me. I mean, because there's so many of those, but
yeah.
I might not know the one you're talking about. Yeah, send it to me because that's interesting. Because a lot of students in this class, there's like music students, but there's theater students and stuff too, and dancers. So that might be interesting for them if they're, say, not good at musical theory and coming up with chord changes for their melody. That might be something they
something
could
that they
use.
do. So I think that direction is very interesting for AI, if I
Yeah,
may. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk into your projects that you did. Basically, the recordings you just did recently.
Okay.
Uh, Tuxedo Man, basically, with and I'm sorry, I have to go
David
look.
Beck.
I have to look into my notes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, David Becker. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And talk to me about that recording. And you were saying that basically it's one of your favorites, and so your wife's favorite, basically.
Absolutely. Well, okay, so how this kind of came about, I mean, David and I talk like probably two or three times a day now. I mean, we've become such great friends. But he and I had met just in passing. He had come to some Pat Metheny shows and Larry Coryell shows and stuff. And I was aware of him, a great guitar player. He lived in LA. His brother, Bruce Becker, is really a great teacher, studied with Freddie Gruber. And, yeah, so he's got a lot of stuff up there. So, anyway, all of a sudden, I get some call from David, and he's moved to Springfield, Illinois. Okay,
There you
and
go.
so he just said, "Man, we should just get together." So I said, "Sure, come up to the house," and he drove up, and in the same room, we listened to music, we talked for, had dinner, probably spent like maybe 6 hours together, and just really got along great. And so I said, "Man, there's a great studio here in Skokie, Illinois, where I've done a bunch of records." And he said, "Yeah, let's try it." So we went in on a Saturday afternoon, no plan. I just brought whatever. I mean, I think I even just figured out what I was going to bring that morning. When I was like, I'll bring this bag of toys and percussion. I'll
Okay.
bring this Hollywood Miazzi floor tom and my cymbals, and I don't know. I'll bring a thunder sheet and maybe a talking drum. I mean, it was like that. And then he brought the stuff. So we load in, and um, the engineer, his name's Brian Schnocky. He's the son of Mark Bruner, who was a great friend of mine. That was one of the big wigs at Shure Microphones here in Niles, Illinois. He did all the presentations to Congress and everything about laws and stuff. And he died a few years ago. He was 54. He
Oh,
walked down to his kitchen and just
okay.
dead,
Yeah.
and his wife Joe discovered him. So Brandon took over his studio and has rebuilt it. So we went in and we just set up and we started playing. And luckily, from the very first note, Brandon got the sounds. It's like sometimes you might play something and then the guy goes, "Okay, yeah, it was good, but I needed, no, And so we just played. No, we didn't talk about anything except for the one song, which is the title of the album, Tuxedo Man,
Huh.
which was David's cat died,
Oh.
and he wrote this song, okay? And so it was a ballad. And so when he told me what it was about, sort of like a Hal Blaine thing, when he told me it was about, I got the idea rather than just play, like a ballad, I thought of a cat. And, and then I love to solo on ballads. So I had FedEx envelopes and UPS envelopes. So I soloed on brushes on the ballad. And by the time it was done, he goes, Paul, um, I'm sharing the writing and publishing credit with you 50-50. Because I guess I blew his mind. But basically, everything that we did, we used. We didn't talk about stuff. So we did this thing called the hunt. I come up with most of the titles. I in my iPhone here, anything that comes to my mind, I just write for. And so I came up with the titles except for Tuxedo Man because it was going to be about his cat and the picture of Tuxedo Man. And so we played The Hunt, and that was great. And then we played Tuxedo Man, and there's some overdubs because we played something. Let's just overdub on this stuff. But we used everything we did, and then we played a free piece called Crazy Time. That was his title. And so after we played that, I said, well, let's play on top of that.
Okay, so that answers
Okay.
my question because the last track I listened to, I really like The Hunt and Cicadas and Beans. Those my
Yeah.
two favorites. But
Okay.
there's one, and I think that's the one you're talking about, where basically there's multiple drums on
No,
top
no,
of it.
no, no. That's
Is that
not, no,
is that what
not
it's
yet.
happening?
Not yet. Okay, hold on.
Okay,
So
I'll let
there's
you
six,
start.
there's six tracks and then a seventh, which is the bonus track.
Okay.
Okay, so we do Crazy Time, and it's great. And I said, well, let's just try playing over that. So instead of the snare being turned on, I turned the snare off. Now I've got, a bed sheet over the entire drum set on everything for this record, including the cymbals.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we play what turned out to be Spiders on Drugs. I named that. And it sounded great together, but then separately, they sounded great separately, and they were the same length basically.
Okay.
So we kept that. And then I wanted to do like a kind of a groove tune. So we did that. That's the one I called Cicadas and Beans.
Mhm.
And when we were mixing, I had on my iPhone, when the cicadas came, I had taped cicadas on my voicemail thing. So we just put that in there at the beginning, the end. Okay. And then we ended that day because it was like sort of mid-afternoon. We ended up playing The Catch. And The Catch is like the first 3 or 2.5 minutes is just David. I didn't even come in because it sounded so cool. And I come in, and we didn't know, we weren't trying to do a record. We just went in to have fun and get to know each other. So all of a sudden we go, oh my God, we listened to, after we were done, we, loaded out, went to get a pizza at a great pizza place here. And he drove down to Springfield. And then we talked a day or two later, and we, oh my God, did you listen to this stuff? So then we augmented it, when we mixed it, right? Okay, and then I sequenced it. And then we said, okay, we've got this 6 tunes. Now, just goofing around, I went, what happens if all these 6 tunes are played simultaneously?
Yeah, okay, that's what's happening. Okay.
And it was like, oh my God, it sounds, especially if you know the music, it's like a dream at the end of the night that puts your day together. And so and you can hear how it almost like is playing off each other. And so I went, man, David, check this out. And he loved it. So we ended up putting that as the bonus
It's a
track.
bonus track.
So
Okay.
now, we had to try to find a label. And he had a label that he used to use. But unfortunately, like a lot of labels, they were not in good shape.
Oh.
So I had a couple labels. We sent it to an Italian label I knew. And they never got back. They liked it, but we never pursued it. And there was another label stuff I've done on, but they wanted us to pay for everything. And I'm
I
like,
see.
no, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So I finally said, okay, there's a Polish label, GAD Records, that I'm on with this Polish rock band, SBB, that I've done all these records with. And we sent to them. They said, well, is it mastered? And I went, okay. I went, yeah. And then I
Yeah.
mastered it
Okay.
after the fact, and they loved it. I mean, they said like within like 15 seconds they wanted to put this out.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very
and I knew
nice.
they were good guys, you know. So we ended up going with Gad Records. The New Sun, I guess, is a small subsidiary of them, and you know, we signed a nice deal, and they were doing, you know, not only streaming stuff, but they were doing CDs, and they're also doing LPs.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and
Nice.
two different colored LPs, black, I think, and purple LPs. And they did the artwork, but I wrote the liner notes, you know, because I remember everything on how it went. So for me, this is like really 100% me, you know what I mean, as
I see.
opposed to the 35% me. And I think it's the same way with David too, because you know
Mm.
it's David's picture of his cat on there. I mean, it was just like two people working together without like there was no well, let's do this instead. It was just like, man, just like incredibly just that's why if you look at the liner notes, it starts with the sense this was meant to be, because
Mm.
it was just something that was just came out of wherever it came out of, you know. And Dave is an amazing guitar player, great time, great phrasing, great sounds, great guy. He does all these things around the world. I mean, he's always doing, like, he just got back from Colombia, the country, a couple weeks ago. He was just in Italy. He's got this thing called Planets, where he projects like the planets behind him, and then he just does solo concerts, and
Okay, I see.
they're always sold out, where he
Okay.
loops things and stuff. And so we're thinking we want to do duo gigs, you
Yeah,
know,
no,
because
exactly.
I could bring out my crazy stuff and you know, and you know, prepare the drum set. So I think it would be not only musically interesting but visually entertaining too, you
Hmm.
know. And so we're hoping, we've submitted it for 5 categories in the
I was
Grammys.
about to ask you exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot. I mean, we're getting feedback. I won't tell you from who, but every reply we've gotten is not like, oh, this is good, or like, yeah, you know, it's been like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, like
Hmm.
from really heavy people.
Good,
So
good. Congratulations.
the good thing about it is that we're getting that feedback, and it seems like the music we love is touching people the way it would be. The drag about it is because it's on a small label, you know, to
Hmm.
get it out there, and also with the tariffs that are going on, they're having a hard time getting
Yeah,
us, you know,
yeah,
product, and getting, you know, so we're dealing with that. But
yeah.
my wife is confident that we're going to get a Grammy. And she's, I'm,
Well,
you know,
she's been
we
around
shall
for
see.
a while and knows your record, so I would
Yeah,
trust
I
her
mean, you
instinct.
saw, if you go on Wikipedia, especially, I did most of my records. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of records of
There
all
is.
styles.
Yes.
And this one is like definitely in the top three, if not the top
Oh
one, you
wow.
know? Yeah.
Okay. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Very nice. No, I didn't know what to expect. I listened to it, and if you hadn't tell me that it was improvised, I wouldn't have known.
Hmm.
Honestly, I thought it was just like, here's an idea, there's where we're going, but if you saying we just walked in and just played, that's
Didn't even
amazing.
talk about it.
That's
Didn't even,
amazing.
yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
That just goes to show how much vocabulary and musicianship is inside of you, and of course between you guys as you were playing. So yeah, very nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, this would be, you know, like especially at this age, this would be a really fulfilling thing if
Mm.
it got the recognition that we actually believe that it deserves, you know. And again, it's not about us, like how great we are, you
No,
know,
no, I
because
understand.
you know, that's the thing, like playing with David. I mean, he's got chops for days. I mean, but there's no fast licks, there's no
No,
fusion, like
no,
look what I can do stuff. It's like us talking to each other, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And luckily, it was recorded beautifully. And I can't believe that I used AI to master it. I did. I went on, when I said, yeah, this is mastered, I went on and I looked just as a goof, like free AI mastering, you know? And then I found this site and I just tried it. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible, you know? And I played it for engineers, and no one can believe it was
Tell the
AI.
difference. Yeah. No, it's to that point, and yeah, I think I know which one, but yeah, it's to that point today. It's just ridiculous. Well, congratulations, sir. It sounds really cool. And if people are interested to listen to it again, it's Tuxedo Man with David Becker and Paul Wertico. and I think it's the website. Well, I'll put it in the description basically of the interview basically, so people can go check it out.
Yeah, I can send you. I mean, we just did something for Talk Shop Live last night. You know Talk Shop Live?
I do not know.
Talk Shop Live, they sell, you do an interview and they sell things. And they just got done doing Bad Company. They just did Simon Kirk and Paul Rogers. They've done Metheny, you know, they do a lot, they do books and everything. So we just did 20 copies CD with our, our signatures on there. I can send you that because that I didn't watch the whole interview yet. I did it, but this day has been pretty crazy. But I can send you that too, where people can actually, if they want to buy it through that, that might be a good thing too. Um,
Excellent.
yeah.
Anything to get the word out. I'm all for it. I'm all
Thank
for
you,
it.
Dennis. Thank. Well, that's what we need, because in the old days, man, the old days, you'd get it reviewed in magazines or
Right.
like the newspapers. Now, I mean, where do people go?
That
Yeah.
is that is the question, because I used to just open TV and in Canada was much music plus, and they're like, oh, this jazz, the Festival of Jazz Montreal, this is a program, and I go, oh, cool. I go check out, or go to the downtown, pick up a little program that's paper, it said whatever, and yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, and yeah, I mean, we do it in our own little ways in our little drumming musician community, but yes, it is a very basic need that needs to be redone, if you will, of what's going on in terms of who's playing what records and all that stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this will come back. I mean, to some kind of normalcy where, um, how can I put it? You know,
Delicately.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to be very, like,
Diplomatic, yes, of course.
politically correct here. But the thing is, there's certain things that should be recognized as opposed to just being at the same level of just amateurs and just doing stuff. And I'm not against amateur. I mean, I loved punk rock. I loved garage rock too. It's not about the music, but it's just about like you said earlier, like a 6-year-old playing Rush, that's great, but should that really be up there with Neil Peart? I mean, and
Eh,
should, it gets to that point where everybody, you can belch and then you put it on TikTok and you get a million views you
yeah, no,
belching,
for
and
sure, for
then
sure,
then a
yeah, for
great a
sure.
great dr- drum solo by Elvin Jones, and he's got like a
Yeah,
thousand after 15 years or
yeah,
something.
but that's the interwebs, and I've learned to know that, because I've we've all put up stuff that we're pretty proud of, but we got maybe 500 views about it. But I always, anyways, I'm hopeful that people that are seeking those types of things have a way to find them, and to find those bands, and to find those groups and that music, and to find them and to go see them. I think I'm always hopeful that the people really interested in a genre of music is all can have found channels to be able to know what's going on. That's my hope. I hope I'm correct about that. People can comment at the bottom of this interview, but I think that's still happening. Would I put the same, say, your record, the same level as, say, a Taylor Swift that came out? For sure, because I think we all need to have different categories of, because not everybody, it's Taylor Swift is amazing, but I'm in my 50s. She's not my, I'm interested by other music, so it's just basically be able to sort of show all the different categories at the same level. And I agree with that with you. And then let
No,
people just decide, basically, I'm interested in that and this and that, so forth. Yeah.
no, that's perfectly said because all the different categories. It's not a problem with the category. I like country western. I like pop. I love Oasis. I mean, bands like that. But it's the level. Oasis is here. Somebody else that's trying to sound like Oasis is down here right now. But why should it all be even? So like what you guys are doing, for instance, you're helping us get the word out. So in a lot of ways, you're really valuable as a source for people to get to find out about these things, kind of break through the whole clutter of all the stuff that's out there that
Yeah.
just makes everything invisible.
Yeah. And that's, and I, my little way, hopefully our little channel does that, basically, and
Yeah.
that we have some sort of, channel that people can go, oh, okay, Paul Wertico just put out a record, I'll go check it out. Da, 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 da. So hopefully that's what we're doing. So
Yeah, and we can only do what we do. You know what I mean? It's I think that's why I mean that's why I'm spending time gladly. I don't know you personally, but we're hitting it off. So now I feel like I know someone, and now we're friends just because of what you do and what I do. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of all this kind of stuff too. It connects people, connects channels. It's a really cool thing to do, as opposed to just sitting there and trying to be impressed. A lot of times I'll tell people, someone will show me something, and my response, which I think I'm proud of, I think I came up with it, even though who knows, but I just said, I'm impressed, but I'm not moved.
Okay. Yeah.
Because music is supposed to touch you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just seeing someone play really fast and really complicated, that's great. I mean, I good for you. You've done the work. But man, what does that mean for me? And in fact, in the AI class, one of the things we had was writing a bio. You write a bio, Chat GTP writes a bio, Claude writes a bio, and what does a bio do? Most people think a bio is about them. Like, look at, I did this, I did this, I did this.
Hmm.
Okay, but what does it do for the person that's reading the bio? Like, if it's a promoter or
Yeah.
or an agent or someone, an audience member, if they read, oh, you've got blah blah Grammys. Okay, great. Well, that means that you're good. But why would I want to come and hear you?
Yeah.
So how do you write?
Where's the emotion to behind the
Yeah, and
thing?
the
Exactly.
connection
Yeah.
outward
Yeah.
as opposed to just, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me,
Yeah.
how beautiful I am. You know what I mean?
Well, you're very beautiful, Paul. I'll let you
Oh,
know.
yeah, right.
I do want to talk about basically a symbol you've just created
Uh,
not too long ago, because it is a Canadian company, of course, but it's also a very interesting symbol you created, which is Dream Symbols. And you've created some flat rides with them not too long ago. Talk to me about, and I think it's a 20 and 22 inch. Talk to me about creating the Bliss vertical ride. Sorry, that's a mouthful. Bliss vertical rides with Dream Symbols.
well, yeah, I mean, this has been a dream of mine for a long time to have a signature symbol of something that I could develop because I guess, going back from the Roy Haynes, now he sings, now he sobs stuff. I mean, I always loved flat rides. And with Metheny, it was, flat rides were great because of all the complicated rhythms and all the textures, but you had to cut through. So you didn't want a washy cymbal. So, so what happened was, um, I think it was in 2017 or 18, I was doing something in Italy, and then I got asked to do a clinic in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minneapolis, um, Minnesota, and then I had to fly back to Italy. Okay, so I came home for like 2 days basically, and so I'm there, and I didn't have cymbals with me, and one of the cymbal guys from Dream, Kent, he said, "Well, you want to try these out?" And I was like, "Sure." And I played them, and I was like, "Wow, these feel fantastic. They sound great." So he was like, "Well, why don't you, contact Andy over there, Andy Morris?"
Mm.
And I said, "Sure." And Kent was like helpful. Oops, sorry, someone's texting me. Sorry. And um, you know, so we hooked up, and I said, well, I'd love to be with you guys, but I need to, I really want a signature product,
Mm. Mm.
after all the time. And they were like, sure, that would be great. So I was like, okay. So we talked, and then COVID hits.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So this is pre-COVID. I
Yeah.
see. Okay.
Yeah. This is pre-COVID. That's what I'm saying. It was like 2017,
17. Yeah.
18-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
So all of a sudden, by 2019, I had gone up there and I had played the product in Toronto. And then, I had a clinic lined up, everything, but then COVID hits. So later on, you know, they sent me a bunch of prototypes, 20, 22, and 18, by the way. And so I went through those to pick out, like, the sizes and also the weight and everything, the
Huh.
touch, to get what it was. And I went back up with my wife. We spent a couple days up there, and they were just fantastic to work with. So that's how that kind of came to be.
Mm.
Because for me, it's not just the sound of it. Because Pistes, Zildjians, say, I mean, they all sound basically good, but It's the touch of the player, but it's also how the cymbal responds to you.
Drums, I see.
Some
Yeah.
cymbals,
Right.
they're kind of, you're basically trying to dance on a piece of metal and make it come alive. And some cymbals record really well and all that, but they don't have that touch. They don't have that buttery, like, give and take. Like music, you have to
Uh-huh.
dance together. You can't just be one person playing on top of another. And so that's what we were looking for. And that's how that kind of came to be. And then when we figured out, the right weights, gram wise, and everything to those cymbals, we picked out what the prototypes would be.
So it's
So there's also an 18 that hasn't been released
oh,
yet.
okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, so a smaller symbol. Okay.
Yeah, which sounds amazing. We just decided, you know, that we'd just start with the 20 and 22.
2022.
Yeah.
And to you, the difference between 2022 is that you have a bigger wash with a 22, or what is it more definition with 20? What is it a bit the difference between the two?
A little bit of both, I guess. I mean, the 20, because it's smaller, is going to be probably usually a little higher pitched.
Uh-huh.
Price range wise,
I see.
some people
I
want
see.
that. Some people don't want a big cymbal, Like with Pat, I use 22 inches,
I see.
right?
Okay, that's
But,
interesting.
but a lot of times before that, I would just play 20s. I
Okay.
always like 20s, and then the 18, like I think that Roy Haynes one was an 18, you know. So the 18 is softer, faster. That would be great for like say bass solos, piano solos,
Okay.
where like a bigger cymbal might have. It's not. It's going to have the same amount of wash because it's a flat ride, but the wash is a beautiful decay when you crash them. They sound. It sounds like broken glass in a good way. It doesn't.
That's usually
It's
yes.
not like this kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then they get out of the way. And so the other thing with flat rides, I think people just don't understand why why a lot of people want you to stay on the hi-hat. You can play it closed, you can wash it out, then
Mm.
you go to a ride cymbal, you either have a bell or you have a wash or a crash. Well, if you play a hi-hat and then you go to a flat ride, you could
It's,
still do that playing
uh,
rock or funk.
I see what you mean.
There's still the definition of the hi-hat, but you have a different timbre now. You have a different texture musically without
Uh,
going all the way to a washy ride.
uh,
And
uh,
so it's really so whenever people go, "Oh, flat rides are only good for jazz," I go, "Well, if you have a closed mind, maybe they are, but no, musically, they're as versatile as any other instrument."
Interesting. I never thought about it, but yeah, that's true. I imagine you could do kids sort of keep that same dynamic of the hi-hat that's closed, but a bit more wash to it. Not as not as pingy or sort of defining and ear piercing. If you go to a regular sort of rock bell or rock ride, if you will. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
And then if you play it too, like again, the way they feel great.
Mm,
So it's not like you're going to, because a lot of times some cymbals, like I said, can be harder. The touch is harder.
mm.
And with these, you'll get that beautiful tick just like you would on a hi-hat,
Hi-hat,
but
yeah.
also feel really good. Like you go to it,
Interesting.
it's like, oh man. So that's an important thing, and especially as you get older, like sticks are a shock absorber,
Mm.
because if you hold the sticks too tight, all that stuff goes up your tendons and cartilage, and you're gonna end up being messed up. At 72, I'm like a kid, because I play very loose. I just hold the sticks just tight enough that they don't fly out of my hands. So you can get like the undertones and the overtones of the flat ride too. As opposed to if you use your whole hand, the difference between German, American, and French grip, for
Yeah,
instance,
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So if you're holding it, you can get all these beautiful dark
Right.
underbelly of that cymbal too.
And in the demonstration video, you're saying that you could also use it as sliding it as a crash just to get that effect, but it would wash away and sort of cut away really quickly, which I've never thought of as like, oh, yeah, that's true. If you because it's flat, doesn't have that curve to it, then it would have that accent without taking over basically the
Exactly.
entire kit. Yeah. So yeah,
Well,
interesting.
well, the other thing you mentioned too, and the way to play a cymbal in general, but the way to play a ride, people usually just play one way. They get that pointed down sound. But
Mhm.
I always say, if you slice to the right, the pitch goes up. You slice to the left, the pitch goes down. So when you're doing this, you're basically playing melodies with a rhythm. You're not playing just a rhythm. And
It's
you're
okay.
also and you're also relieving any repetitive motion in your wrist and
Hmm.
fingers.
But
So
I'm
you're really dancing with the cymbal, you know, and then the cymbal like moves with you, and so it's almost like there's a rhythmic dance too, which feels fantastic when you're in the groove, you know.
and I'm just curious. The right, you said high and left goes low. I'm curious
Yeah,
to.
because even if I do this, that's
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, and people don't know that, you know. It's like
Interesting.
yeah, because you know people are, especially if you're a rudimental drummer, you know,
Mhm.
you play everything up and down.
Yes.
But you know, the old say the old jazz drummers, they were like tap dancers. You know,
Mm.
they used all the whole kit, and that's why you know when they play a rudimental type of thing, it makes you shimmy, you
Mm.
know, as
Yeah.
opposed to want to march.
All
And
right.
so when you dance on the cymbal, you can have one cymbal and just get infinite amount of different colors. You know, so if you're dancing one way or the other, if you're doing it with you know the French, or you're doing it with you know like German, if you want to call it that way, or like American, which is halfway, you get all these textures going on. You know, and then where you play on the cymbal. I mean, you know, if you
Yes.
play
Yes.
that's the other thing. So it's just, I mean, I do gigs, I've done gigs seriously on the street back in the day where I just brought a cymbal onto the street with the whole band and just played a
Yes.
cymbal. And
Temple. Interesting.
no one missed anything. They didn't miss the snare, they didn't miss the drum or hi-hat, you know,
I
because there
still.
was just enough information there.
Yeah. I suddenly have more appreciation to what my prof was saying to me about 10 years ago. That it's all about the symbol and not the snare or the kick. It's all about this ding, 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 and that's where the swing is. And yeah, thank you.
And think tap dancing. Think,
Yeah,
you know, because you know you want to make people move. I mean, they
yeah.
can either move like this or move like that, or they can,
Starts
you
way.
know, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think of waves. I don't think in turn like again like you know the inorganic versus the organic rhythm.
Mm.
So the inorganic, nothing bad with it, but it's more the subdivisions, the you know the grid, you know all that stuff, and then the organic is in the same time space, whether it's you know like 2 bars or 5 seconds or whatever, but it
Yeah.
moves like waves. It can speed up and slow down,
Yeah.
you know, and you could probably, I mean, especially AI could subdivide and say, oh, this is a 17th going into a
Yeah.
90th, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't think like that. You think of forward motion,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Or taking sort of going a bit faster in the chorus, but slowing down back into a verse, or sort of following together because that's the field in the verse and sort of thing. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting
because I love playing with click. I mean, I so much stuff I do with click, but I never get off with a click. But it never sounds stiff
stuff. Yeah.
because I'm able to maneuver those just just those milliseconds between you know. So otherwise, you sound like a machine, you
Yeah.
know.
There's just plenty
Which
of that
sometimes you have to, and sometimes that's okay too.
for sure, but there's plenty of it in the world. So.
Well, well, a friend of mine, I did these 3 albums with the band Marbin, and in fact, the record I should talk about this that came out a year ago, Marbinico. It's the three names. You can hear those flat rides on that record. Um, Danny Rabin is this incredible guitar player, and he does a lot of stuff on the Marbin, especially Facebook page, where he talks about different things. And just today, which I'm going to use tomorrow in my AI class, some guy is showing him that they went into Suno. You know Suno,
That is
Suno,
that is I think
and
that's
they
one
put
that I
in
know.
the
Yeah.
guy put in like fusion. You know, he put in like the what did he put in? He put in some parameters. You know, the key and everything,
Yeah.
and it came out sounding like this amazing fusion band.
Okay.
You know, which was really scary because a lot of fusion music is on the grid. You know,
Yes.
as opposed to just being more
With flow.
organic, being more
Yeah.
human.
My favorite, just to close with the AI stuff, but one of my favorites, I go a deep dive, I go to the rabbit hole, is to find someone who's taking, I don't know, like a funk band and put it metal, or vice versa. I've taken like a Metallica song and brought it to a funk genre through AI. And it's both hilarious at the same time, super groovy. I don't know how it's done, but it's just, you wouldn't have thought about it, but somehow it works. Anyways, it's so yeah. If you want to
Yeah,
interested in
yeah.
well,
But
thanks for
check out before I go. I mean,
yes.
I'm not leaving. I'm just saying
No.
before I forget. So yeah, Marbinico.
Okay.
Check out. So Marbin is Marbin. So it's their two names. it's Danny Markovich, incredible sax player. So that's the MAR, and the BIN is Danny Rabin,
Okay.
incredible guitar player. And then obviously ICO for my thing. And
I
that
see.
was one where it was like a different thing, where same studio, we went in. I did the whole record in one day, 10 songs. I had never heard the songs before.
Okay.
They were pre-recorded. Danny Rabin also played bass, played with Click, and just did the whole record like in an afternoon, and played
Amazing.
percussion on top of it.
Amazing. Cool. Cool.
That's
I love.
that's one of my favorite records too. It's more mellow, it's a completely different zone. And it's very, 'cause those guys are Israelis too.
I
They
was like,
live here.
okay.
So there's that the Mid-Eastern kind of feel to it.
That's right.
And
Okay.
that's funny. There's no drum breaks or anything, and there's no sax solos, even though Danny Markowitz, the sax player, wrote all the songs. It's only guitar
That's
solos.
our solace.
So you'll hear like 10 songs. I mean, this guitar player is astounding. And every song's got different sound, different mood, everything. It's really cool. And there's one song that I did almost like a Last Train Home kind of groove on it.
Oh yes, the
We
V
call it
Metheny
because
smell. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
daughter's name is Talia, her husband's name is Avi, and they're into trains too. So we called it Avi Talia Express,
Wow.
and so Avi Italia Express, right? So instead of a capital I, it's a small I, and it's so cool. I mean, you should check this out, you know.
I
And
guess
so
I have
yeah.
more listening to do
Well,
this
what I'll
week.
do, I mean, later on, I can send you a couple links or something like that. You
Cool.
know,
Cool.
yeah,
I'll put them in the description. I'll put them in the description.
yeah.
So much to talk about. I'm just gonna ask you this last question. What is
Sure.
up for the remainder of the year and 2026? What is the next projects for you?
Well, I mean, besides finishing the semester, this is kind of hard to believe, but so I play with Mike Stern,
Oh yes, yes.
and so he had asked me to play the jazz showcase in November, November 6th through 9th, which I was like, yes, I mean, this is because all my students are going to be able to come and see me. It's going to be great to play with him. And then what happened was there's a piano player, Pino Giudice, who I don't know, but David Blayermeyer's the singer, and Pat has worked with him a lot. And Pino said, man, we're doing this tribute to Lyle Mays in Milan.
Okay.
It's going to be a 60-piece orchestra.
Wow.
He's arranged all this stuff. There's a piano player, Antonio Ferrer, who's like, I guess I've heard he's Herbie's Hancock's favorite piano player or something, but he's ridiculous. So I said, well, I'd love to do it. Just don't book that weekend. And
And
so I'm in Copenhagen in July
mm,
with Niels Landoki, and all of a sudden he goes, Paul, the Opera House is only available on the 7th. So I had to call Mike to get out of his gig.
oh really? Okay. Okay.
And he's the greatest guy, man. I mean, talk about it. A great cat, not only a great player, but the nicest guy. He goes, Paul, don't worry about it, man. I understand,
Cool.
because this is like a once in a lifetime event for Lyle Mays.
Mhm.
And he's going, the jazz showcase is great, but it's a jazz showcase. It's a club gig. He plays every year. The drummer who played last year is doing it this year. That incredible drummer. So it's not like I'm letting him down,
Right,
but
right,
I'm
right.
letting myself down, because
Yeah, yeah, because you don't want to
I
do
really
that.
wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But then already the summer's booked. I mean, Niels Landoki just asked me to do 4 weeks in Copenhagen. I just did 2 weeks in Copenhagen in July, brought the family out. Now he wants me to do 4 weeks with another maybe 2 weeks after that. This would be with him and his brother, Chris Mendoki. Because the Doki brothers, I don't know if you know who Niels Nandoki is. He's
I
knighted. He's
yeah.
knighted in Denmark.
Okay, I checked
Yeah.
him out. I checked him out this week because
Yeah.
you recorded some
I'm on
stuff with
that
him. Yeah,
record too.
record
Yeah.
as well. But
Yeah.
I'm discovering this cat. Yeah, exactly.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
he's
Yeah.
amazing. He's
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's already like, see, that's the problem with teaching is that I have to like really be selective because now the summer I only have like maybe 3 months off on the summer, which
Wow.
seems like a lot, but it goes by really fast. And if it's going to be a whole month or 6 weeks of it, that's going to be half the summer. But I want to do it. So yeah, there's so much going on that way. And then again, like these new records that'll be coming out. So with Fareed Haq, Fareed Haq's a great guitar player with Sting and Joe
Saying yeah.
Zawinul.
Yeah.
So we have this trio. It's funny. It's called Off the Rails because I wrote a song called "Straying Off the Rails," which is like a parody of Last Train Home. It's like this thing where the train's going, and then the brushes we start like doing this, and then
There you
gets
go.
back on, and finally just goes plop on the side. So he, you know, so it's called Off the Rails. So that's going to be coming because he's doing stuff with Garage Mahal right now. So he had to finish that. So now that's going to be the next project with that. And then this great bass player, Frank Russell, I did three tunes of on his record, one including Barb's tune, "What Would the World Be?" And that's going to be amazing. He's got all these Robert Irving the third, who was Miles Davis's guy. That's actually right now in October. Daryl Jones, the bass player,
Right,
is
right, yes.
doing 4 weeks in Denmark at Epicurus. He's got Jeff Tain Watts and Robert Irving's playing
Oh,
piano.
I love
So,
Watts, yeah. Oh,
so there's
cool.
so, I mean, the level of people I'm playing with is just, I mean, it's like, die and go to heaven, basically. You know what I
I'm
mean?
gonna I'm gonna need a chart, Paul, to figure out where you
Yeah, no,
are.
it's been really good. And again, I want my students to be able to do this. I mean, one of my students already is like so busy. He's probably playing
That's good.
3 to 4 nights in Chicago and with the best players in Chicago.
That's
And
good.
he's a senior, so he'll be graduating in the spring. So he's already got that momentum going out.
Cool.
And I got a couple students like that.
Very
And
cool.
some of them are different. I've got one girl student who just is a groove master.
Mm.
She's not like a jazz. She's more coming out R&B. So she's playing all the churches here in town. I mean, she's like the number one call for doing that. So I'm not trying to make her into a fancy jazz person. We look at it, but for me, it's like teaching her how to read better, if she needs to read charts and stuff like that. So, it's like making everybody into the best of what they want to be. And they might change their mind later down the road, but the thing is, I only have limited time with them. So rather than try to break down everything and make them into something they don't understand or aren't ready for, you want to strengthen their strengths, give them, access and information about other things that they might want to learn, next semester or next year or whatever. But it's fun. So for me, it's like jamming. It's like I never know what's going to happen. It's not like
Uh,
going in with a set agenda.
uh,
This is what you learn as a freshman. This is what you learn as a sophomore, no matter who you are.
mm.
So that's why I guess maybe I've stayed. And I'm thinking, if I could get through maybe to 25 years doing that, that would be interesting. We'll see.
I will knock on my wood for you.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So, well,
I'm
Dennis, man, thank you. This has been,
Yeah, because
this has been
I
great.
have to stop because eventually we're gonna run out. I would say run out of tape, but this is
And dinner time too, right?
exactly. But thank you so much, Paul, for so generous of you of taking your time with us and talking about your projects and all this stuff. For a man who's a natural and improvised his life, I think you've done very well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no,
Done
I've
very
been
well.
blessed, man, with family life and everything. I mean, no complaints, it's been, it's been good. And I wish everybody out there who's listening to this the same thing, man. Just good life,
Thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. I'll try to keep up. We'll stay in touch. What you're doing, and of course, if ever you're in Montreal, jazz festival, whatever, definitely
Oh,
want to go check you out. And yeah, it would be amazing.
I would love to come up there and play. That would be
Yeah.
great. Okay. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. All the best. All the best with the projects, and good luck on the Grammy, and good luck on everything else.
Okay. Thanks. You too, Dennis. Okay.
Ciao
Ciao.
for now. That was our time for tonight. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for Paul for being gracious with his time. All the best to you. Come back next week for another episode of Drumfills Cafe. Until then, all the best. Ciao, ciao.